pleasure and privilege for me to introduce our guest speaker, and how timely it is that Kenny's back here in New Zealand. And what a story. He came to New Zealand back in about the 80s.
Yeah, 82.
82, and what an impression he made. I don't know how many of you followed the Saints basketball team here, but Kenny, I think he came as both a coach and a player. And I think I'm right in saying you made something like 7 finals in a row, and you won 4 of those. 5! Well, there you go. 7 finals in a row and won 5. Worth listening to. But in addition to playing basketball at that level, he was also promoting the game at this level, because he established what is known today as one of the biggest clubs for basketball in New Zealand, called the Hoop Club. And I think I've got it right that you've actually visited every school in Wellington?
I could say so. There could be a couple of other ones popped up though. I'll find them.
Yeah, but isn't it great that people are playing the sport at this level on the one hand, and on the other hand, down here is looking at the grassroots. Fantastic. And since 2003, Kenny has been involved in Basketball New Zealand Junior Development Program, and was head coach of the Junior Tall Blacks when they played the World Championships in 2009. And of course, in more recent times, we all know that Kenny has been best known for his support, mentoring of our current NBA star, Steve Adams. So before I ask Kenny to come forward and share some of his experiences and his wisdom and some of the stories with you, I have to say I've had some insights into some of those over the last couple of weeks, and I just can't wait. I should mention that it was indeed a pleasure and a privilege at the Dominion Post Sport Wellington Sportsperson of the Year Awards just, 2 weeks ago. Kenny was acknowledged for the contribution that he's made, significant contribution that he's made to basketball at several levels by being inducted into the Legends. And you can see, as you come up through the main entrance down there, there's a whole lot of plaques up there. So Kenny's name's up there, and a citation alongside that. He is a legend, a sporting legend. So it's my pleasure to hand over to Kenny.
Thanks a lot for that warm welcome. Thanks for what I want to talk about is, I guess, as we talk about the pathways here, what I want to mention to you about is the journey. All right, and a lot of people talk about, I guess, at the high performance side of things, what happens when you get to the top end. All right, when you win that gold medal, when you win that championship, you know, right before you retire, you know. But you got to think about when it all started, you know. And when you think about it, myself, when it all started, it goes way back, you know, in terms of basketball. My father played professional football. 3 of my uncles played professional football, and they was coaches, you know, and they really worked on, I guess, people in the neighborhood to actually stay out of trouble. You know, we grew up in the area of Detroit, and it was a lot of crime, and what they really wanted us to do is give an opportunity, all right? And when it all started, it was a little bit different. You know, we all had big afros, and we all run around, and we all wanted these big dreams, and we all wanted to play professional sport. I look at sport here in New Zealand in a twofold. One, the United States perspective, and number 2, the Kiwi perspective. Even though that I'm born and raised in the United States, I've been living in New Zealand for 33 years. I actually only lived in the United States for 17. So my accents tend to change, you know, ups and downs, you know. But what I really want to talk about is, I guess, like I said, that journey to get there. You know, what does it take? I'm fortunate enough to be able to play at, you know, a certain high level, you know. And when I was 16 years old, it really was an eye-opener to myself. I went into my coach's office, and I was a cocky young kid like everybody else. And my dreams at that stage was to become an NBA basketball player. So I sat across from my coach, and my coach said, it's only 1% chance that you're gonna make it to a professional athlete. I said, what do you mean, Coach? I'm leading scorer of the team, and I don't want to make it to the NBA. He said, but there's only 1% chance that you will make it. So I actually kind of deflated my ego a little bit. And then he said, reached into his drawer and he pulled out about 10 scholarships and he put it on the table. But it's 100% chance that you can get a degree, because you have some scholarship offers on the table right now. And there's only one deal that you have to do. It's pass your classes. You have to pass that SAT, you have to graduate from school, and you will have a 100% chance, if you commit to one of these schools, of getting a degree. Because our focus here is becoming a student athlete. As I heard that, I wasn't really listening until years down the track. Because the only thing I'm thinking about is professionalism. But as time went on, and as I've grown up, and as I've seen people who missed that goal, because we grew up under understanding of a theory of saying, shoot for the moon. And if you miss, you'll be amongst the stars. All right? But we never thought about the miss. Always thought about the shot, going toward that moon. And at the end of the day, how much work did it take to go toward that moon? As time went on, and I retired myself, I sat back and thought about the things that I could have done to make it better. Even though that, yes, I came out here, we went to 7 state championships, and we won 5, but we should have won 7 for 7. And what happened within that time period of stopping us from actually achieving those goals? Maybe I wasn't working out hard enough. Maybe the things that was said to me early in my career, I didn't really focus on. And I'm talking about the dirty work. I'm talking about getting up every morning. I'm talking about doing the right things. I'm talking about keeping your nose clean. I'm talking about doing your schoolwork and staying out of trouble. Coming out of Detroit, that's the only focus that we had, to be able to go through that pathway without going to jail or getting shot. All right? Wanted to become a professional athlete. But as I went into the coaching side of things, and I arrived here to beautiful Wellington on a stormy southerly, as I was flying on Air New Zealand, I was looking at the magazine, because 2 days later, before that, my coach said to me, Kenny, you got a chance to go overseas. So I just finished my senior year at Washington State University. So you got a chance to play professional basketball right now overseas. I said, great. He said, got 2 options, Czechoslovakia or New Zealand. I said, who speaks English? So I jumped on a plane, I was headed down to New Zealand. Thinking about being in the South Pacific, I'm thinking palm trees, sunshine, Hawaii type of atmosphere. And once again, we arrived here to a stormy Wellington. As I arrived here to the Wellington airport, I drove. I just left Washington State, 16,000 seat sellouts, playing on ESPN, all the networks, going first class. The coach picked us up, the sponsor and administrator, and drove us straight to St. Pat's College. We walked into the gym and said, this is your home court. So as I looked around, I said, well, this is what it's going to take to get to the NBA. I'm willing to put in the effort. But as I retired, and I thought about the lack of facilities that you had down here, and I seen some of the athletes, because one of my first experiences here in New Zealand in terms of sport is when I went to our first rugby game. Had no idea what rugby was. So here I am down at Athletic Park, and I'm watching these guys playing. One of the bouncers at a nightclub that sponsored us in those days was playing. So I'm sitting on the fence, and I'm watching this game, and I'm watching the dedication of these players. And I'm watching the bangs and the hits, and the people falling out in the blood, and everything was going on. One guy got knocked out on the court, on the field, and he was out, and the game was still going on, and I was looking around at everybody, and I'm thinking, where's the ambulance? So what happened was this guy run out with a bucket of water, and he sits down there, and he puts some water on his face, and the guy jumps up and he continues to play. So I said to the guy next to me, I said, well, what's in that water? He says, magic water. So when I was on the phone, I said, New Zealand, they got this magic water that you get knocked out, you just put it on your face. But because things were so, what I considered, personally, in my first year, in the dog ages, I was very impressed about the dedication that the players had in terms of training, the commitment, and everything. And so I said to myself, once I retired 1996, I said I want to start a program that will give kids opportunity to be the best they can be, regardless of where they're from. If you have an athlete and you give them an opportunity in a program, and you set down the values, you know, and you put the effort in, why can't that person be just as good as anybody else in the world? You do it in rugby, you do it in league, you do it in netball. You're only challenged to be the best. So I said to the people here, I said, all we need was facilities. And if we have the facilities, we can create world-class players. And that's where a guy like Steven Adams come in. He came into me at age 13. He was only 6'2", so I could actually look at him eye to eye in those days. I played with two of his brothers. And at that stage, I had already had a formula of being able to get kids overseas. 'Cause over the last 8 years, I've sent 49 players on basketball scholarship over to the States. So I had a formula of becoming a student athlete, working with them from about age 12, and then being able, between 17 and 18, being able to send them overseas with the confidence to say that they can do it. So by the time he came along, we had such a formula where he said to himself, I want to make it to the NBA. Now he had got himself into a little trouble up in Rotorua after his father had passed, and his mother was in the Tongan Islands. And he wasn't going to school for about a year and a half. So his older brother had brought him to me and said, listen, can he come into your program? So I looked at him and I said, listen, can you get up 6 o'clock in the morning? Because that's where our training's at. He said, yeah, I can get up at 6 o'clock in the morning. So he enrolled him into Scotch College. Because his older brother, one of them was 6'10", one of them was 6'8". Valerie's about 6'4", 6'5". And I said, hey, he comes halfway in between the two, he's going to be a big boy. So I said, listen, number one thing you got to do is get your education sorted out and create what we call a work ethic. You have to learn how to learn. Scotch College was a great environment for him to go in and be able to become a man and work on some of the deficiencies he had with his social side of things. And being able to work with people in groups. And then what we've done is, he would text me 5 o'clock in the morning and ask me, are you going to pick me up? This went on for about 4.5 years. So I used to pick him up about 5:30, we'll go over to the old show buildings, and we would train. And then I would drop him off at the school. The only deal that we had is that he finished school every day. He didn't leave school. The day I dropped him off, he had to walk through those doors, and then after school, he done tutors. And then he trained with the school team, which wasn't much, but then in the evenings, he would train with the Wellington Saints as well. So he had 3 trainings a day, plus the regular school, plus a tutor. And once again, he done that for 4.5 years. So by the time I got his scholarship to the University of Pittsburgh, people had started asking me at this stage, is this guy going to make it? And I said, of course he's going to make it. He's going to make it as high as you want. He's actually on this journey right now. And the journey, what we've done is from a young age, 13, 14, we established work ethic as being number 1. All right? Both in the classroom and in the sport. You had to put priorities. And we talked about the distractions. And as we all know, as you get a little bit older, there's many distractions out there for these young people. Back in the old days, with nothing but TV and an old record player. These days, you got things where you push your thumbs with the PlayStations, you got the texts, you got all sorts of social media. You can be up all night. Trust me, only way I can contact my young players is through the social media, because they live with the phone in their hand. So I said to them, you will have a lot of distractions coming through. But if you got one single goal, to become the best that you can be in the team sport, but you got to work as an individual to be able to get there. Because as I say to the people back in the United States, I live in New Zealand. That's down under the down under. So that's a long way away from making it to the NBA, being able to find a player way down here to do what he has done. As he moved through University of Pittsburgh and he got to Oklahoma City, Oklahoma City was a team that was a marriage made in heaven. a very conservative city for a Kiwi boy that's only 20 years old, who can't even get into a bar, which is great because he's only 20 years old, you gotta be 21 to get in, so he had none of that nighttime activities. All right? But he had a very conservative town, but it was a very good organization. It was community-based. They took care of their players. They had a mixture between a bunch of young players and a couple of old veterans on the team. So they adopted him as one of their own. But what they loved about this Kiwi boy is how hard he was prepared to work to achieve his goals. And as you make it to that type of level, and one of the things he always say is that when he comes back, a lot of people ask him, you know, how does it feel to make it to the NBA? What are you going to do with all this money you make? And he's saying it's not really about making it to the NBA no longer. It's no longer about how much money you make. It's how good you can become. Because, see, he's not at the destination yet. He's still on that journey. And as I talk to people, it's like a book. But the book is about this big. And we're only in chapter 1. And in terms of an athlete in the NBA, the average career is only 3 years. It's a very cutthroat business. They're about to have a draft tomorrow, which they will be drafting 2 players to come in and take some of the players' spot who made the team last year. Luckily enough, this Steve was on a 2-year guaranteed contract. And more important, as a young player, he was able to step up and make an impact on that team, which had an MVP, the most valuable player in the league. Best player in the world was on that team for this year, Kevin Durant. 7 foot. I know they got him listed at 6'9", but trust me, I see him training all the time. He's 7 foot, and he's one of the hardest workers that I ever seen. He just turned 25 years old. And on his MVP speech, he broke down in tears as he thanked everybody in the organization. And one of the people that he singled out thinking was the big Kiwi. This is the youngest guy on the team. He was in tears when he said to him, I respect you, I know your story. You motivate me. And as he spoke, there's so much emotion that was in that room. And as I was looking at Stephen's face, and I was looking at Kevin's face, I was saying, you are now accepted into the club. All right? That's an exclusive club in the NBA with only 350 people that can play in that league. But when you move up to an organization like the Oklahoma City Thunder, who's over the next 10 years will be knocking on the door of being the best team in the United States, and you're now being accepted by the leader, that means that you have arrived to a certain level. But as we speak on a regular basis, we always talk about the journey, because you're not there yet. There's a lot more basketball for you to learn. There's more training for you to do. And more important, as you come back, you are now opening the doors for other young Kiwis to say, listen, I can do it. And as we used to get up early in the morning and we used to drive to the gym, and he said, man, it is early. And what I used to say to him, there are athletes on the lake right now working out, they're rowing. And those same athletes who got up 4 o'clock in the morning on that cold lake is coming back with gold medals. So when you're talking about the journey, when you're talking about, I guess, the climb to the mountain, that's a rough road to get to the top. And as you get closer to the top, it gets extremely slippery. A lot of people fall. But if you got, I guess, where you guys starting right now, a great base to start with, all right, in terms of work ethic, it will carry you through all the way through your career. And even myself, I guess my journey started about 50 years ago, when I was about 4 years old. I'm showing my age right now. All right? My father being a coach, I used to be one of those young kids at the gym. But as I retired in 1996 from professional basketball, it seemed like my journey continued on, because my mission was to actually spread the gospel of what it takes to become a champion, what it takes to become, I guess, a successful athlete, and what it takes to have what we consider self-satisfaction. Because if you're not satisfied yourself in what you're doing, you won't enjoy the ride. And the most important thing about this is that journey. When you completely retire and you hang up your boots or your shoes, then you can turn around and look and say, listen, this is where I've become. This is where I am right now. And I'm happy with myself. But enjoy your ride as you go right now, because trust me, you're a young person 1 minute and you're old fuddy-duddy the next. All right? Is there any questions? All right, thanks a lot.
Thank you.